I'm going to walk you through a 7-step framework that you can apply in your content today to get more of your ideal clients pre-sold in wanting to buy your stuff. And I'm going to show you that this framework in this AI revolution is freaking needed because information is a commodity. Everybody's trying to educate and put out this AI slop. When you learn how to actually use what I'm about to show you, you're going to find, at least from my experience, you're going to find way more people wanting to book calls with you. And on the calls that you do have, you'll be able to get way more people to want to work with you by just applying this framework that we're going to walk through. In fact, as of today, March 2026, I'm averaging $102,400 in sales every single month. And I say that not to like brag. I say that humbly. And for some, maybe that's a little. And you're like, rookie numbers, bro. For some, that may be a lot. But I can tell you, for me, it's a far stretch than what I was doing just a few years ago, where I was bouncing between 10, 20, 30K months. And I was really struggling to create any stability in my income. And despite applying all of the tactics, like learning the latest sales scripts and stuff like that, applying every funnel you can think of, the Instagram funnel, the Facebook group funnel, I was running ads to a lead magnet trying to book calls. Like I was, you name it, I was freaking doing it. And I would have short spikes when I was applying tactics. I would have like some revenue. I would do a good month, but I couldn't keep the stability, man. And I was like beating my head against the wall. I was wondering what I was missing. And this framework, to the best of my knowledge and ability, at least for me, has been the missing piece. And when I show this framework to people that maybe have been doing decent months, they're bouncing between 10, 30, 40K months, but it's like all over the place. When I show them this, they also agree that it's like the 5% that has allowed them to scale, that makes all of their other marketing actually work. And so I'm going to, pre-frame that today with this because it's so important. It's like the 5% that produces 95% of your results. It's kind of like, if we use an analogy here, imagine somebody is trying to lose weight and they're eating healthy, but you find out they're eating 300 calories a day. You're like, homie, it doesn't matter what nutrition plan or workout plan you follow. It's like they're starving themselves. And so they're not going to get the results. And that's what a lot of coaches and consultants and experts, like people that are, if you're putting out content on the internet, if you're doing marketing on the internet, most people are equivalent of eating 300 calories. They don't have the right foundation. So none of their marketing truly works long-term. But when you do get your calories dialed in, right, everything starts to work. You start to shed fat. And in this case, move the analogy out of the way, when you get the foundations of what I call belief shift messaging in place, anything that you apply it to, you're going to start getting better results. So that's what we're going to be walking through today, a 7-step framework where you can use belief shift psychology. I'm going to show you step-by-step how to apply it into anything, whether it's a piece of content, a video like this, an email you send out, a webinar that you do, a podcast that you're on. You can use this anywhere and everywhere, and it works because it's timeless. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. But first, understand this. Like, this is like a really crucial piece to understand. And I would say you're pretty smart if you're here, but I don't want to assume anything. If we look at the landscape that we're in right now, dude, we're in this, like, we're literally in the middle of this AI revolution. In fact, Google has shown that there's 1.2 billion posts being published every day, which is insane. And if we look at, like, people could take out their phone, they can go to Google and they could type in, how do I get leads for my coaching business? Or how do I lose the last 10 pounds? Or how do I fix my marriage? And Gemini will give them a response right away with links and everything. And so consumption has never been easier. People can get it in seconds. Will they implement? It's a whole other story, which we're going to talk about. But then if you look at the opposing side as creators, it's never been easier too. You can go on to ChatGPT or Claude or one of the many other tools, and you can create content that's pretty decent in seconds to maybe minutes. And so because of that, information has become a commodity. You look at the internet now and it's like, I don't know the percentage, but a pretty high percentage is AI slop. It all looks the same. So the market's become sophisticated incredibly fast, like to what's going on out there. And so this is why it's so important, is that, like, if you're still following the outdated strategies of of just like posting content and trying to educate your audience and running these challenges, and you're basically teach, 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 you're probably also not getting the results that you want, because what you're missing is influence. You're missing the ability to shift people's beliefs. In that, my friend, that is the 5% that will get you the results. And so with that said, let's freaking walk through this, shall we? So the what I call the belief collapse sequence, because it is a sequence of 7 steps, is what you can apply to any piece of content. It's a belief shifting framework that when you apply, the formula won't change. You're going to start to see more people wanting to book calls with you, more people wanting to buy from you. And it's not magic. It's just you're literally changing the way people think. Right? We all know the framework. Maybe you don't. I'm assuming you do. Which, anyway, what we believe is ultimately going to create our habitual thinking, right? And that's going to dictate the actions that we take. And those actions are going to produce some type of result, or maybe the inactions, right? And that's going to produce some kind of feeling. And that's the perpetual cycle that people are stuck in right now, is they believe something. Maybe they believe my genetics are bad if you're in weight loss, or maybe they believe that I just need to generate more leads from ads if they're in business. People have these beliefs, and if they hold those beliefs as true, dude, I don't care what you say, they're not going to move forward. And in fact, there's 8 beliefs, and I'm about to host a workshop today showing people how to shift the 8 core beliefs that from top of funnel to middle of funnel to bottom of funnel, they get somebody to become a buyer. And this is actually a tool that I'm giving within the workshop today. So if you want to see that full workshop, link will be in the description. But with that said, let's walk through these 7 steps. So the first step in the sequence is surfacing the current belief. And we're going to go through some examples of this here in just a moment. I'm going to walk through all 7 of these, but surfacing the current belief is essentially exposing the belief that they have, right? So maybe it's like they need more leads is a belief, or I just need to find a better diet, could be a belief. The second is going to be agitating the consequence. So once we do that, we want to show them like how much worse it can get. The third is going to be creating the crack. You might think about this as like a pattern interrupt or creating cognitive dissonance if you're a fancy psychology major, right? But we're essentially creating a crack so we can plant a seed. Does that make sense? It will in a minute if it doesn't. Number 4 is reframing the problem. We have to shift the way they see or think about the problem they're in. And then we want to anchor a method. So once we planted a seed, we've shifted the way they see the problem or think about the problem. We then want to give them a new way. And then we want to show evidence. We need to back up our case. We can't just like say things. We need to back up our case. And then we can invite the next step. And so this is how it looks. So with the step 1, surfacing the current belief, right? The first thing to understand is you cannot shift a belief that you haven't articulated. So if you're like, say, a weight loss coach as an example, and you're like, you can eat whatever you want and still lose weight. But meanwhile, somebody's like, you don't know my genetics, girlfriend, whatever. Like, they're not going to believe you. Like, they may want to believe you, and they may see other people doing it in your world, but they're not going to believe you. And so you can't shift a belief that's not been called out. And so call out what they currently believe, even if they haven't consciously said it. In fact, there's a famous marketer, his name is Jay Abraham, and he famously says that if you can articulate the problem better than your ideal client, they're automatically going to assume that you have the solution. So really, really crucial thing to be able to do. And so when they think that's exactly what's in my head, that's exactly how I think, you've now locked their attention. You've got them engaged, right? So this could be like, hi, I just need to post more content and eventually it'll convert. Or my problem is leads, or I'm just not good at sales, or I think I just need a better diet, or I think I just need to see a therapist, or whatever it may be. Step number 2 is agitating the consequence. So you want to show them what this belief is producing. And you don't want to attack them. You just want to reveal the pattern. Beliefs create behaviors, and behaviors create results. So we just have to connect those dots. So this could be me saying like, hey, this is why you're posting daily and you're still chasing DMs. You're still not getting inbound leads. Or if the problem if they say is leads, I'm like, dude, you've got a lot of people that are engaging with your stuff that are essentially clapping for you, but they're still not buying. Or, hey, this is why your calendar stays half empty. Like, dang, right? So you're agitating the consequence. With step 3, creating that crack, like this is so important. This is the pivot. So you want to gently challenge the belief with the truth that they can't easily ignore. This is essentially the pattern interrupt. This is where their brain goes, wait, maybe my assumption is wrong. In this moment, when it comes to influence, this is everything. And so there are 5 tools. There's a lot more than 5, but there's 5 tools that you can use to start to create that crack. There's what's called redefining, where you're changing the meaning of a word that they're using to justify the old belief. There's the consequence. So you want to follow their belief to the logical end to show them where it actually leads them. There's the counterexample. So you want to give them an undeniable, at least one, example that makes the old belief impossible for them to defend. You can apply it to self, so turn the logic back on itself so they can see the contradiction. You can chunk up. So this is like zoom out to see a bigger truth to the old belief. So now the old belief looks from a smaller perspective. So redefining, well, we'll use weight loss as a pretty easy example. So to redefine, again, this is all step 3 to create the crack. You might say, hey, you call it discipline. I call it punishing your body for a problem your metabolism created, right? So we're redefining the meaning of what they thought the problem was. Consequence for weight loss could be like, hey, if cutting calories work long-term, nobody would ever regain the weight, but 95% do, right? So we're showing them the consequence regaining the weight if they're dieting too long. A counterexample for weight loss could be Sarah's 52 and she has PCOS, but her doctor said accept it. And guess what? She didn't, and she lost 30 pounds in 4 months. So this is giving a counterexample to somebody. And again, this is a very specific example for, a niche that you're helping people over 50 with, PCOS. Apply to self. So again, staying with the weight loss theme, you could say, hey, you say you don't have time, but you have time for 3 hours of Netflix every night. So you're just turning it on itself. You're showing them the contradiction, right, in whatever they're saying. And then chunk up. We could say, hey, this isn't about losing 20 pounds. It's about whether your kids growing up watching you take care of yourself, or are they going to watch you give up, right? So we're literally chunking up to another example of, hey, your kids are watching you. And now it makes the current belief of, I don't know if I can do this, I'm going to give up, seem like really dumb. So once we've created that crack, and you can just use one of these, you don't need to use all of them. You can use one every time you're trying to shift the belief. The 4th thing is we want to reframe the problem. And so this is basically replacing their old explanation with a better one. You're not correcting this, you're just upgrading their model of reality. And so the old way, at least in my world, people might be like, I need more volume. And I could be like, no, you need to shift beliefs before you sell. Like, huh? Or like old way, people can't afford my offer. It's like, no, they don't yet believe what it's worth. They haven't seen the perceived value of it. Something simple like that. That's all we're doing, is reframing the perspective that they have. Step 5 is anchoring the method. So you want to anchor the new belief into something concrete. It could be a framework, a name, a method. Without a mechanism, it feels like an opinion. With a mechanism, it feels real. Like imagine if I was telling you just belief shifting, but I didn't have like an actual framework, right? So this gives you something concrete to be like, aha. So, but I could say something like, hey, this is why you need belief shifting content, like I did today. That's what I call pre-selling. That's why we install conversion content campaigns. So these are some of mine. I would anchor methods in around my philosophy that you have to get your messaging in dialed in, that you have to use more belief shifting. Step 6 is show evidence, right? So if I was going to say something like, you don't need more volume, you need to shift beliefs before you sell. Like people would be like, sounds awesome, homie, but I don't know. So I want to show quick proof to make the new belief feel safer to adopt. And so I could say something, and I'm going to show you a few tools that you can use, but let's just say I use my own example of like, dude, I was freaking struggling to make income to create any type of sales. And now I'm doing over 100 grand in sales every month on average. right? I can use my own story. I can say a client story. I can use a client story to show the case, right? I can use an outside example. I can use Google, right? Or I could talk about Alex Ramosi says, right? Because it's like an outside example where it's going to help provide evidence for my case. There's a lot of things that we could do. Here are 5 that I typically use most often. So the first is going to be your personal story. This works for most belief shifting because it's like it's your own story, where you're just telling your truth of how you went from old belief to new belief. Like earlier today in this video, I was talking about how I was trying every funnel you could think of. I was trying different sales scripts, different sales tactics. Like nothing truly worked for me until I understood the fundamentals of belief shifting. Then anything that I did worked, right? So I'm telling my own personal story of transformation. Client story, right? This shows that it works for people like them. So obviously, if you're helping women over 50 and you're telling a story about like your dad it's not going to make sense, right? So you want to make sure that the story obviously is for people that you're trying to attract. It could be a relatable analogy or metaphor. So you want to make the abstract concrete with a comparison that everybody understands. And so it was a okay one. I used the calories to the marketing plan kind of analogy earlier, right? Saying that. So that's like my attempt at using an analogy here. But the keys with analogies is you want to know your audience. You want to make sure that they're going to understand, right? You don't want to use an analogy that like people just wouldn't get, where you're like, in 1912, there was a guy named, and they're like, what? Like you got what I'm saying? You want to make sure that they can understand it, right? So one I used to use in fitness all the time was around like people eating healthy, but they're like eating, 500-600 calories a day. And I would try to get them to believe they needed to eat right. I would say, hey, imagine going to the gas station before a 12-hour road trip and you only put $5 in gas in your car. Like, how far would you actually make it? And now people are like, I wouldn't make it far. And I'm like, exactly. That's exactly what's happening in your body. Except your body can't run out of gas because it's a body. So it ends up pulling from your muscle and all of this stuff. And then it screws up your hormones and your metabolism if it's done long enough. And now people are like, oh, makes sense. And so I've now proven my case. You see how powerful this is? Oh, man, this lights me up. And then a real world example, right? People well known from outside the industry, that proves your principle. A million ways you could do this, man. Like you can use, like if you're in health and fitness, use like I used to use like the Marvel characters all the time. When I was in fitness, I would say, how to get a body like Scarlett Johansson. Here's what she does to prepare for her Avengers role, right? Or here's, whatever. And so, I might use like Alex Ramosi said this, right? This is a real world example that proves my point. And so it gives so anyways, these are 5 different ways that you could show evidence. You can back up your claim versus just saying it. And if you do this correctly, these steps thus far, people should be pretty damn sold on like what you're saying. And then the next step is just inviting a next step. So here, you don't want to force a sale. Just invite a next step. Belief shifts first, buying comes second. And this could look like a variety of things, right? I could say, hey, I want you to take this framework and I want you to test it in your next post, right? Or I could be more direct with you and I could say, hey, if you want help installing this entire framework into your business, then blah, blah, blah. Here, I want you to click the link below and book a call with me. So you could be indirect or direct with it, but the point is you want to get a micro commitment that matches where they are. Early stage content, you want to invite them to think differently. This will pre-sell people. So you don't have to be all like salesy and create the fake urgency and stuff like that. You don't have to be like, I got 5 spots. It's like, no, you don't have 5 spots. Stop lying to people. Right? They're gonna want to reach out to you because you literally are the only person. Nobody's doing this. You're the only person that's actually getting them to think differently. So they will reach out to you. Mid stage, you can invite them to try something, right? So like I'm hosting a workshop today. So I'm gonna invite all the attendees to try something, and then late stage invite them to talk with you. So like on any workshop that I do, I might say, hey, if you want to go deeper with me, here's how you could do it. and I might give them a next step for them to go deeper if they want to. And so that's how it looks. And so if you want to see this full formula in action, I literally have examples for the business space, the weight loss space, the relationship niche. I've got plenty of examples, the full formula in action. If you want, I'm not going to read through all of this right now, but if you want this, just click the link in the description below. I have this in an entire playbook, and actually doing a workshop on it today. So if you want to get access to the playbook and you want to see the full examples for every different niche you can think of and really be able to practice this and study this, because again, in my experience, this is the 5%, the underlying principles for me that have made marketing and sales so freaking easy. And it's from the sense that I learned the skill of shifting beliefs, which allowed my communication to do the heavy lifting for me. And then sales, for the most part, become relatively effortless at that point. So if you want the full playbook, you want access to the workshop, click the link in the description below and you can grab it. I'd love to know what you thought about today's video. Drop your comment down below. Make sure to click subscribe if you want more. And as always, remember, your message matters now more than ever has before. Don't be afraid to speak it. Be seen, be heard, and be impactful.